My names were already mentioned. I don't have much else to say about myself. When I was invited, the language that I'm most comfortable in is not even English or Swahili. It's Kikamba, because I'm a Mkamba. Particularly, even among the Wakamba, we call people Wakamba from Machakos and Malela, and we have the Wakamba from Kitui, we call them Adaisu. So I will speak Kidaisu. Are you all comfortable? You okay with me speaking fluent Kidaisu? No problem. I thought of that actually. But then I thought, well, probably I wouldn't be able to bless some of these young people who don't understand that. And what I'm talking about is, I wish I could hear all the words my sister was singing. When we are in a group like this, I am praying and pleading to you, let's try to be inclusive. Yeah. Because if I spoke in Kidaisu, there are very few people who will be blessed here. It is very good to be patriotic, to keep our language. I'm actually proud to see some of the young people here fluently speaking Kikuyu. I had an unfortunate incident 3 years ago. 2 days before Christmas of 2013, I was burying my wife in Kitui, Kenya, when she died here in New Hampshire. And it was a heavy moment, but I'm talking about language, not about that event. We will be talking about some of those things later. But don't worry about, because I've started stories and you think we're going to stay here for forever, because two young people who are comparing their pastors, and one of them says, I like the younger one because when he says in conclusion, he concludes. The older one, when he says lastly, he lasts. So I like to be the younger one. Just say in conclusion and conclude, and then we can go home. So we'll get there, don't worry. But when we went there, and I'm talking about the value of keeping your language, I went there with my son, who had been in this country for close to 13 years. When we went, he gave his eulogy in very fluent Kikamba, Kidaisu, and young people who grew with him in Nairobi were amazed that he could speak such fluent Kikamba for more than 20 minutes, 15 minutes. And I was amazed myself. I didn't know he knew so much. And so I am proud when I see that. But when we are in a more international community like here, because when we have a Kenyan fellowship, we have 42 tribes in Kenya. Let's try to be more inclusive so that those who are here can also be blessed. There is every good in speaking and singing in those, but try to diversify so that I can also get that CD and be blessed. And I'm not saying this in any bad, I'm just pleading with you. Add a few more so that I can also be blessed. Okay? Amen. All right, so the word is this young man walking in the streets of Accra, Ghana. And all of a sudden, he collapses. And then, what do we do in Nairobi, in Accra, in Africa? We surround somebody. We all come around and we have all ideas of what. Oh, call an ambulance. Hey, we have no time for an ambulance. Let's make a makeshift kind of a bed and fold a shuka or something and take him to the, hey, we can carry him on our back. And they were all arguing on what to do. And then, one of the guys who was surrounding and looking, hey, there's a meal there. In Kenya, most of us know ngima. Ngima, because we make it from ugali. And it's a staple of food. Among the Wakamba, mudokoi could be staple. Among the Kikuyu, irio or mokimo or whatever. But in Ghana, they have a kind of ngima that they make from cassava and millet, and when it's mixed together, it's called kenge. So this guy says, hey, you're arguing for nothing. This guy just needs kenge. And then they turned on him. They say, hey, you're joking. This guy is dying and you're talking about kenge? They turned on him and stopped for a while, and this guy was on the ground. But as he was down there, he raised his hand and says, listen to the kenge man. What am I talking about? I'm talking about what Dr. Manik was saying. We need kenge.
Amen.
which is the word of God.
Amen.
Because if we don't have it, we will be malnourished. And there are many churches who have forgotten, as you say, and us as Christians, who are doing everything else, worship and all these things, but we have forgotten the main thing is Kenge. So let's go in there, because that's what I love. I tell stories, so don't let me get going, because I could tell a lot of stories. Another one about D.L. Moody. You all know him, Dwight L. Moody, Chicago, in the 17th century, during the time of revival, and he would be preaching in the streets. And as he walked by, he would accost everybody. I'm told he was there was nothing to admire about D.L. Moody. He was very short. And you know, people who are shorter than 5 feet, they have the short man syndrome. They think everybody looks down upon them. So he also had another problem. You know, he used to stammer a little bit, but also bow-legged. You know, so when you look at him, there was nothing to admire about this man. And he's walking in the streets and he finds this guy who is almost 6 feet tall. And he says, "Sir, have you received Jesus Christ as your personal Savior?" And then the guy looks down, "Mind your own business." And he said, "Sir, this is my business." His business was to preach Christ. So I like preaching Christ, and that's where we are. So let's turn to Mark chapter 5, verse 21 through 43. And I will read from there, and we will gather a few thoughts. You know, my job is very easy. When I started preaching more than 30 years ago, I used to be very skinny, and I used to be this young man, and I was pastoring a church in Nairobi that had over 1,000 people, and then it grew to 3,000, and I used to shake a little bit because, so sometimes, no, it's good we have a pulpit. When you hide behind the pulpit, people don't see you shaking. But sometimes we shake because we are handling powerful words from the most powerful of the powerful people in the universe. So if you see me shaking, it's not because it's because I'm handling powerful words. So let's read Mark 5:21 to 43. When Jesus had again crossed over by the boat to the other side of the lake, a large crowd gathered around him while he was by the lake. Then one of the synagogue rulers named Jairus came there. Seeing Jesus, he fell at his feet, and he pleaded earnestly with him, "My little daughter is dying. Please, come and put your hands on her, so that she will be healed and live." So Jesus went with him. And a large crowd followed and pressed around him. And a woman was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years. 12 years. Bleeding. She had suffered a great deal under the care of many doctors and had spent all she had. Yet, instead of getting better, she grew worse. And when she heard about Jesus, she came up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak. Because she said, "If I just touch his clothes, I will be healed." And immediately her bleeding stopped, and she felt it. She felt in her body that she was freed from her suffering. And at once, Jesus realized that power had gone out from him. And he turned around in the crowd and asked, "Who touched me? Who touched my clothes?" You see, people crowding against you, his disciples answered. "And yet you can ask, 'Who touched me?'" Jesus, you are a joker. But Jesus kept looking around to see who had done it. Then the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came and fell at his feet, trembling with fear and told the whole truth. And he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering." And while Jesus was still speaking, some men came from the house of Jairus, the synagogue ruler. "Your daughter is dead," they said. "Why bother the teacher anymore?" Ignoring what they had said, Jesus told the synagogue ruler, "Don't be afraid, just believe." He did not let anyone follow him except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. And when they came to the home of the synagogue ruler, Jesus saw a commotion with people crying and wailing loudly. And he went in and said to them, "Why all this commotion and wailing? The child is not dead, but asleep." But they laughed at him. And after he put them all out, he took the girls, the child's father and mother, and the 3 disciples who were with him, and went where the child was. And he took her by the hand and said to her, "Talitha kum," which means, "Little girl, I say to you, get up." And immediately the girl stood up and walked around. She was 12 years old. At this, they were completely astonished. He gave strict orders